From IsReal News, this is the morning briefing for Wednesday, February 25th. Australia has directed family members of its officials posted in Israel and Lebanon to leave, citing a deteriorating security situation and the risk of military conflict. The government warned that airspace closures and flight cancellations could follow if tensions escalate. This comes as multiple governments reassess staffing and travel guidance amid heightened regional uncertainty. In Washington, President Donald Trump said the United States wiped out Iran's nuclear program in strikes carried out last June and said Iran wants to start all over again. In his State of the Union address, Trump vowed the U.S. would never allow Iran to acquire nuclear weapons and described Iran as the world's leading sponsor of terror.
My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. But one thing is certain, I will never allow the world's number one sponsor of terror, which they are by far, to have a nuclear weapon. Can't let that happen.
The development follows continued debate in Washington over how much to disclose publicly about Iran-related military planning. Ahead of talks expected Thursday in Geneva, Iranian officials signaled openness to diplomacy while warning against any military action during negotiations. Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, said Iran would engage in talks that preserve what he called Iran's dignity and interests, but said an attack would draw a strong response. This comes as both sides prepare for another round of talks amid continued pressure and warnings. Separate reporting described continued U.S. military movement into the region, even as diplomatic options remain on the table. The Institute for National Security Studies in Israel reported more than 250 U.S. combat aircraft are now in the region, with additional aircraft in Europe, alongside multiple refueling, transport, and surveillance assets. This occurs amid preparations for potential scenarios ranging from negotiations to a limited strike focused on nuclear sites. U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee, speaking at a U.S.-Israel relations forum in the Knesset, called Iran a global threat and described the U.S.-Israel relationship as a unique partnership. He said Iran's activity extends beyond the Middle East, including through affiliated groups in multiple countries.
Obviously, we speak today of the partnership between the United States and Israel, and it is remarkable. And I'm grateful to be serving here in Israel, where that relationship is not only stronger than it has ever been, but it is more necessary than it has ever been. The freedom that you enjoy, that is threatened every day by adversaries like Iran, is also a threat to the United States of America. Americans often don't think of it because they're 6,000 miles away from Israel itself and 8,000 miles away from Iran. To them, Iran is just some faraway place, and the people who lead the government issue chants like death to America. They may not understand it, but they've been bringing death to America for 47 years. Having killed thousands of Americans, having threatened the life of the President of the United States by hiring assassins to kill him, and by spending 47 years trying to build an international and global threat that ultimately would send a nuclear weapon not just to Israel, but to the United States. This is why when people act like, why do we care? I would say, how could we not care?
The remarks come as U.S. and Israeli officials emphasize regional and global dimensions of Iranian policy. In Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu welcomed Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on arrival at Ben Gurion Airport, with both sides expected to advance defense and technology cooperation. Israeli and Indian officials discussed updating a security agreement to enable broader collaboration and potential access to more sensitive technologies, according to Israeli reporting. This development follows a period of expanded security coordination among U.S. partners as regional tensions remain high. The Knesset approved a preliminary version of proposed legislation commonly referred to as the Western Wall Law. The bill would make violations of rules set by Israel's chief rabbinate at the Western Wall and other holy sites punishable by up to 7 years in prison, according to the draft described in Israeli reporting. This comes amid ongoing disputes over prayer arrangements at the Wall, including debate over egalitarian worship and concerns voiced by some groups about relations with Diaspora Jewry. Israeli police investigated and briefly detained a yeshiva student after authorities said he sent a text message to opposition leader Yair Lapid referring to a desire to kill Prime Minister Netanyahu, then deleted it. Police said the suspect apologized, described the message as an attempt to provoke a reaction, and was released under restrictive conditions while the matter was transferred for prosecutorial review. The incident takes place during a period of elevated concern about political incitement and threats. In New York City, the City Council is holding a hearing today on proposed legislation that would require the police department to develop a plan for buffer zones around houses of worship. The proposal follows demonstrations outside synagogues, and it has drawn support from some mainstream Jewish organizations alongside opposition from several progressive and protest groups. Authorities are responding to competing demands to protect access to religious institutions while preserving protest rights. This concludes today's briefing. Those are the latest headlines from IsReal News.
Israel is moving to heightened readiness as U.S. military posture across the Middle East expands, and timelines for a possible strike on Iran appear to be shortening. Washington says diplomacy remains the preferred path, but military options are actively being prepared. Iranian officials warn the nuclear gap with the United States may no longer be bridgeable. Stay with IsReal News for updates.